Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga, the program hosted by Virat Hindustan, where every day at 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time, Dr. Subramaniam Swamy comes for his daily talk show. And as usual, we are here. Today, as you all know, we'll be discussing Operation Blue Star. And over to Dr. Arvind Chaturvedi for the questions to Dr. Swamy.
Dr. Swamy, if we talk about major political events in the last 50, 60 years,
Yes,
Operation Blue Star will certainly figure in this list.
yes,
There are different circumstances which led to the movement by Sant Bhindranwale and which ultimately culminated in Indira Gandhi sending the forces to the temple,
yeah,
calling it Operation Blue Star,
yes,
which of course led to the spread of movement also for some time.
yes,
And though over a period of time the movement has almost disappeared, so to say, but in fringe is still is there. There are supporters in Canada, United States, England, and even in Indian states. So
yeah.
please tell our viewers about the history, what led to this Operation Blue Star, and what is the situation today as you see it.
Yeah. Well, first start with the comment you made that the movement is fizzled out. But the more important thing of the outcome of the Operation Blue Star, which I'll be emphasizing, but I would like to state it now itself, that there was never a movement. And I will explain what Bhindranwale's own position was on this in a moment. But the more important thing, and that is still festering, that is the Hindu-Sikh relations, which got damaged not only by Operation Blue Star and blowing up Akal Takht, but also by the follow-up of Mrs. Gandhi's assassination leading to genocide of the Sikhs. We have still not given them justice through the courts yet. And we have to wipe this black mark in our society of having committed genocide against a community of Sikhs who were not only at that time totally innocent and helpless, living in Delhi, but the fact of the matter is that the Sikh community played a major role in protecting the Hindus during the Mughal rule. So, having said that, let me start by saying that the starting point was the return of Mrs. Gandhi to power again in 1980. And after a year, the assembly elections took place, and in Punjab, the Congress came to power in Punjab, replacing the Akali Dal, Jan Sangh or Janata Party alliance, and the chief minister was Darbara Singh, who was a part of the left wing of the Congress party. Now, why I'm saying this is has implications for my narrative. Darbara Singh also had an alliance with Harkishan Surjit, who was the General Secretary of the Communist Party of India, he was, in fact, Harkishan Surjit was in fact very pro-Soviet also. In fact, he had to go many times to Russia to get his medical treatment done. So both these two went to Mrs. Gandhi and said that the Akalis are about to begin a major satyagraha, and we should try to divide this movement by bringing someone more extreme in profession than the Akali Dal, and we can say Akali Dal have sold out to the Hindus and so on and so forth by campaign. So the idea of Bhindranwale being brought in was gave birth at that moment. And Bhindranwala was in a nearby, not in Amritsar, but he was in a little distant place called Damdami Taksal, where he was a preacher there. That's in 1981. He was just 34 years old. A young man, but very magnificent speaker, hot speaker, hot speeches he used to give. But they were never against the Hindus. Even at the height of 1984, he never said anything against Hindus as a community. Because I heard two of his speeches because I stayed as his guest in Akal Takht for 5 days. You remember that, Arvind? And so everything that Bhindranwala was doing, who he's meeting, where he was meeting, how, when he went to sleep, when he had lunch, everything
In fact, when you came out of the temple,
yes,
journalist asked you, what did you see in the temple?
Yes, they did ask
And your
me, and that
statement
is
was
part of
carried
the
all over.
that is the kind of disinformation that was done, and people like Shekhar Gupta and all were responsible for that. They asked me, "What did you?" And it's going out a little way because it's I'm just trying to build up the historical record. But still, since you raised it, I'll mention it. They asked me, well, "You were there within Bhindranwala. Did you see any arms, weapons?" So I said, "Listen, I came here to talk with Bhindranwala and see whether there is a possibility of his and Indira Gandhi meeting and coming to an understanding so that all this disinformation that is going on, particularly from the Soviet Union side, can be ended." So the question of my seeing or looking for arms didn't arise. And the media then put out, the PTI, the Indian Express in particular, that said Swamy says he saw no arms in Golden Temple. Now you can see what meaning people will take. They thought I was blind or I was this thing because they probably nobody saw themselves any arms, but the media was publishing the arms here, who planted it, where, and so on. We can't say. But that is the kind of problems we have today in returning. Let me say, therefore, by that this decision of Indira Gandhi to try and split the Akali movement by putting up a person and using the state machinery to publicize him so that he becomes a larger than life person was the most anti-Hindu step anybody could have taken, which we didn't realize at that time. What it did essentially was that with the help of the media, the idiom became focused on Hindus, focused on breaking the country. Now, here is a community who came out of us, in the sense they got converted from us only. Some families had a tradition of having their eldest son become a Sikh. So, and they fought for us. Guru Tegh Bahadur laid down his life for us, particularly since a large number of Hindu Pandits went and said that we are not being allowed to wear a Janev. So you must make that an issue. So one of the issues that Guru Tegh Bahadur made with Aurangzeb was that. And then Guru Gobind Singh, his son, he destroyed the Mughals in order to save the Hindus. In fact, the British created this joke about 12 baje. How did this 12 baje joke come about? When at 12 o'clock at midnight, without fail, every day, Guru Gobind Singh would take a force and go to the Mughal camps and liberate Hindu women who had been kidnapped to be made into concubines. And so they were called 12 baje by the British, not by the Mughals. They were to disparage them, that they would go mad at that time. So this decision of Indira Gandhi was actually motivated by the Soviet Union, a fact which has not come out and couldn't come out in those days because the Soviet Union dominated our media. Even today they do, the Russians do, but not like those days when they engaged in disinformation to the hilt. And they ran this campaign that here's a fanatic who wants Khalistan. I asked the face-to-face Bindrawala, do you want Khalistan? He said, no. I said, why does everybody think that you want Khalistan? He says, because they are foolish people. They say that you want Khalistan. If they want to give me Khalistan, I'm not going to say, don't give me Khalistan. But I will never ask for Khalistan because I regard the whole country as part of my Suba, as he said. So, therefore, this whole narrative was hijacked and slowly it began to be built. Then a large number of murders of innocent Hindus took place. And you remember in Chandigarh, there was a Congress leader whose son now is an MP and was a minister, Manish Tiwari, I think.
Vishwanath Tiwari was a leader.
His father was murdered.
Yes.
And Bindrawala himself told me that I called up the wife and said, we have nothing to do with it. But the media said nothing else, particularly Punjab Kesari, which was the widest read. So a tempo was built. And the tempo ultimately was driven by the Soviets because the Russian ambassador himself met me in a diplomatic reception and asked me, why are you so sympathetic to Bindrawala? I said, I'm not sympathetic. But many of the things that are being said about him, I have checked are not true. He said, give me an example. I said, in Parliament, the Home Minister, Mr. Sethi, said that Bindrawala in Nanak Niwas, where he was staying, inside the Golden Temple complex, in room number 32, is printing Khalistan passports and Khalistan currency. So when for the first time I got a call from Bindrawala's people saying that Santji wants to meet you because he admires you, and will you come to Nanak Niwas and meet him? I said, I will come on one condition, if he allows me to go into room number 32. So they got back to say, yes, he'll have somebody escort you to room number 32. Now, when I went there, of course, Bindrawala introduced me as a man who fought the emergency, is fearless, is a great scholar. He said, main anpad hoon in Punjabi, asi anpad che or something, and Swamy PhD. See, so and then he arranged for me to go and see room number 32, and I went to room number 32. And when I knocked on the door, it was opened by a young boy, and there was one charpai in it and a stove where tea was being made. Now I took a photograph of it, came back to Parliament and said that Mr. Sethi, and I moved a breach of privilege which was never taken up by Balram Jakhar, who was the speaker, and said, this is what room 32 is. So he said, well, maybe you went to the wrong room. I said, I can't go to the wrong room because I asked everybody around there, is there any room where passports being printed? Even Hindus told me that this is all bogus propaganda of the Congress party. So this was built, and slowly Bindrawala started gaining and beginning to get a bigger and bigger share of the Sikh population onto his side because he was a preacher. He preached Sikhism, Guru Granth Sahib, etc. And that, meant the Akalis were getting to be seemed as weak, emaciated, slavish, all kinds of things. So the Akali was losing ground. This scared of Darbara Singh, that Bindrawala might become his opponent. Instead of dividing the Akalis, he may swallow up the whole Akali. And Bindrawala by then began to realize, and he told me this when I met him, that Indira Gandhi under the pressure of Darbar Singh, was beginning to use him to make him say things which he never said by just addressing the press and then getting it published in a different way. He used to address a press conference every day in the evening where all the pressmen could come, and yet they started calling him terrorists. And the Russians were doing this because the Russians' angle was that they were planning to come, and in fact in 1979 they had come to Afghanistan and they had a hope of entering Pakistan. And I'm sure that they had a hope also then of coming into India because they were already in India as a force of influence. So the Sikhs were the ones who are always been considered as the backbone. As you remember, Maharaja Ranjit Singh went and conquered Afghanistan and brought back the Somnath door also and Kohinoor. So, and then Zorawar Singh took over Tibet, if you remember. The Sikhs, were had a long history of valor, and therefore, and they were 20% of our army, whereas the population they were only 2%. So therefore, they wanted the Sikhs to be alienated, so the Indian army ceases to be a fighting force. And Indira Gandhi fell into this trap. As things moved and the rhetoric got worse and worse, the pressure on the public on taking action can take place. So one day I was called by Gyani Jail Singh, who was an opponent of Darbar Singh. And he said that Darbar Singh is playing a very dangerous game with Harkishan Surjit, who thinks that the only way CPM can come to power in Punjab is if this whole religious thing is discredited. And you have to tell Indira Gandhi, he called her Madam to me, and Pandrawala used to call her Bibi, Bibi or Bibi. And so he said, you go and talk to her. She has a very good opinion about you now after the emergency, because I was the only one who was really seriously opposing her publicly during the emergency, and I made her life miserable on the propaganda I did in America. And her son is a great friend of yours, so go and tell her that she is planning. Now, this was in February, he told me. She is planning for sending the military into the Golden Temple. It would be a disaster for all times to come. So I went and met Mrs. Gandhi, and I spoke to her saying that, you know the Sikh history. They'll never forget you if you send the army into the Golden Temple. But by then she had begun to feel that Bhindranwala was now a great enemy because he had become independent. And the whole game was now through, and in fact Punjab may become more religious. So therefore what happened is that she began to seriously think of taking action. And then by then the Hindus had become all united, particularly in Punjab and Haryana and Kashmir, the Hindu Pandits. And generally speaking, people were like today, people get easily agitated on a number of things because you constantly are getting this anti-Indian, anti-Hindu message coming across. So people become anti. There are, people now telling Muslims, if you want to sell anything, don't come to our house. These kind of things has come because of all that has happened, which the leftists who wanted this kind of alienation take place. So that alienation, the Hindu newspapers like Lala Jagat Narayan's writings and his son's writings, of course,
That is Punjab Keshari.
Yes, the people who are all killed, there were never any inquiries on that. And no one identified them as Bhindranwala. So in today, when the cow, on the matter of cow or slaughter of cows, Muslims get killed, people say it's RSS which has done it. Congress said that RSS, and Nehru said that RSS murdered Mahatma Gandhi. as well as Veer Savarkar. So this kind of attempt, Hindu terror. I mean, you know what happened? Hindu terror that was created. So Sikh terror was created by the Congress. Hindu terror in the first decade of the 21st century was created by Congress. So in this climate, I told her, Mrs. Gandhi, this you please read the history once again. These Sikhs will never forget. You don't send the army into Golden Temple. It's a very sacred temple. It's perhaps the only most sacred temple for them. So please don't do it. This is my view. So she first told me, why don't you have a talk with Rajiv? I said, no, you're the Prime Minister. I will not talk to him on this issue. If I meet him somewhere and a discussion comes, I'll be talking to him, but I will not take time and go and meet him for this. I also got the impression from one or two remarks of hers that Sonia was pushing her, saying, my children are now in danger and the Sikhs are all over the world and I will not be able to go to Italy. I will not be able to go to London. So you have to finish this. But then you know that Sonia Gandhi later on discovered of her close relations with the Soviet Union and her father being arrested, taken prisoner of war when he came with the Hitler's army to fight in St. Petersburg. So it appeared to me, and it didn't appear to many people, and even today people don't realize it, that there was a Soviet hand in this, in which it was easy for the Congress party to be forced to follow in line. And perhaps they had a view. There was, of course, a Pakistani angle, because the Pakistanis knew that with the Sikhs not alienated, nobody can fight against India, particularly on the borders. And so they have always wanted to do this to the Sikhs and make them alienated completely. And Khalistan movement was not started by Bhindranwala. In fact, the first time Khalistan movement was mentioned, Khalistan as a separate state was mentioned, was in a document produced by then United Communist Party of India in 1945, when there was talk about British leaving India just after World War II. And that document, which is easily available, and Parliament Library has it, in that document, they said that Jagjit Singh Chauhan of the Communist Party of India, later on he became the Khalistan leader, will prepare the booklet, and a booklet prepared for him came, why Khalistan is viable. Because the Communist Party's stand in 1947 was that India should not be one country. It should be a confederation of states which can secede anytime they want. So the Khalistan movement was started by them. And that is why Bhindranwala told me, I have never asked for Khalistan. Show me one place where I have said Khalistan banna chahiye. I have talked about how the Hindus are targeting Sikhs and forgetting Guru Gobind Singh and Tegh Bahadur, but I have never said Khalistan. But they all say that yes, Bhindranwala is getting Khalistan. वो देने के लिए चाहते हैं तो मैं क्यों उनको कहूँ कि नहीं मुझे नहीं चाहिए. मैंने कभी नहीं कहा कि मुझे चाहिए या मेरी मांग है. So this whole thing was built up as a setup, and that setup led to Operation Bluestar. And before Operation Bluestar, the army commanders, the General, I think by then General Sundarji had retired. Someone else had come. He
General
said,
Vaidya?
Huh?
General Vaidya?
Vaidya, yes, correct. He showed in Indira Gandhi, and this is in the files, I've seen that there'll be no civilian casualties. And in fact, there were enormous civilian casualties because everything was a lockdown that time. That was Indira Gandhi's lockdown. And so nobody would come out of the Golden Temple. A large number of civilians were killed. And As a consequence, the alienation became very, very strong. Now, the infected Sikhs then began talking about revenge, and Indira Gandhi's assassination became certain. The last time I met Indira Gandhi was on the corridors of Lok Sabha, when the Lok Sabha was going to end, and then we were to fight, go for elections. She saw me in the corridor, and she grabbed me by my hand and said, "Where have you been all these days?" I said, "I've been here." She said, "No, I have asked Dhawan to call you for a meeting." And he said, "No, he's not here. He's somewhere, he's out of Delhi." So Dhawan was also standing there. I asked Dhawan, "When did you call me? Please tell me." So he said, no, every time you say you're going to Israel, you're going to America, you're going to China, this is what. So Dhawan also played a role in seeing that I don't meet her, not because of any political reason, but that maybe I will start exerting influence on her and his influence will become zero. I think that must be it. So anyway, I said, "What do you want to say to me?" She said, "I want to say that you are right. The Sikhs are after me." Because I told her they will never let go after that. And she said, "They are after me. Is there something you can do?" I said, "Now my credibility has also been damaged. I can't do anything about this. And Bidawala is gone. I don't know who to talk to." So this is the genesis of Operation Bluestar. It was a fabricated movement. The idea actually was to separate, to ensure that the communists could come to power in Punjab, or alternatively, the Soviets could come, take over Pakistan and then come to India. God knows, because they were, if they could think of coming to Afghanistan, where they had nothing going on, there was no reason. And then they were, their imperialist urge must have thought of how they can take over Pakistan and come to India. I don't know what the motive was, but there was clear planning on that. And all the communists were out on this, saying that, Hindus are in danger, Hindus are in danger. And then this led to the assassination, Mrs. Gandhi, and then it led to those horrible genocide of innocent Sikhs. God knows how many died, 3,000, 1,000, whatever. Ministers were leading the jathas, whatever they are called. I mean, they were leading the crowds of gundas to catch Sikhs and so on. I was living, in Purana Killa Road at that time. The taxi driver across the street to a taxi stand, the owner was a Sikh. He came to me and he said, "They're all coming for my taxi stand. They'll kill me and burn the thing. I want to leave, but I can't leave the cars here." So I asked him to park in the lawns of my house. And the mobs came. I told them, "Sorry, these are all my cars." And then they went away. But it was to date, we have not been able to give the Sikhs a sense of justice. I don't agree that Bhindranwala was a terrorist. Bhindranwala was a hothead. Many times I told him also. One day, the Niangs were killed in Firozpur. He asked me, "Can you give me a report on it?" And I was by chance, I was there in Kaltak at that time. So I went there and found out that the Niangs were sitting on top of the bus, and the CRP said, "Get down." And one of them took a spear, which Niangs carry, and the CRP got jumpy and he shot him. And in the end process, they shot 5 of them. And then when I came back, I told Bhindranwala, this is what happened. He said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Nothing except go back to Parliament and I will raise it." He said, "In Parliament, the which or something like that. Nothing will happen in Parliament." So I said, "Then what can be done?" He said, 50 Hindus should be killed. So I looked at him And I told him, मैं एक हिंदू आपके सामने बैठा हूँ, यहाँ से शुरू करिए. Then he laughed. He said, मेरे भाषणों से लोग डर जाते हैं. मैं तो ऐसे ही कह रहा था, गुस्सा में कह रहा था. मैं ऐसे कैसे करूँगा? हिंदू और हम तो एक ही हैं. That, see, I think it was easy to manipulate him and put him in the stereotype that they wanted. But what is the price? So this is my last point. What is the price? A division between the Sikhs and the Hindus, which is now papered over, largely over. It's not that everybody was very fond of all these hot speeches of Bhindranwala, but in my opinion, Bhindranwala could have been brought around. And I was working on this compromise, but forces were working to see that Indira Gandhi would agree, and this was confirmed to me by Gyani Jail Singh. And she herself told me in the end on 24th August 1984 that you are right. They will not leave me now. Is there anything we can do now? At that time, it was too late. So this is the story of Operation Bluestar, and this history should be accurately recorded because today is very difficult. All the papers are classified, and even our government is refusing to declassify it. I raised it in Parliament that it should be, and these are the things that have come out, even how the Britishers sent a team to help Mrs. Gandhi on Operation Bluestar. That has now come out in British declassified papers. But here, unless our classified papers filed by the intelligence and RAW and so on is made public, it will not be possible to write a book which will be accurate. It will be based on what they call as by oral evidence of various people. It won't be a documented thing. But I think it needs to be done. Operation that the genocide of October 1984 should be brought to a conclusion as a genocide thing. Then only the courts will move fast according to the United Nations rules. But at the present, this is being still under the Indian Penal Code and the Criminal Procedure Code, and that can be delayed no end. And I tried to get into this matter, but all the Sikh lawyers felt that I should not be allowed in for understandable reasons. Still, I do think that this, like the Jews have never forgotten the Holocaust, we should never forget this. So,
Dr. Swamy, after this 1984 episode,
yes,
a deep mistrust has developed between the Hindus and the Sikhs.
yes,
While in our country, in India, most has disappeared to a great extent.
yes,
You have been in your tours to Canada, US, and UK.
yes,
Tried to bring many of these groups of Hindus and Sikhs together for a dialogue.
yes,
Do you think, because especially the younger generation of the Sikhs have a mistrust about the Hindus,
yes.
the feeling is very high. Do you think something can be done on this issue to win back the confidence of the Sikhs?
First of all, those who went to Pakistan are the biggest idiots in the sea, because the Pakistani Muslim hates Sikhs more than even the devil themselves. Why? Because but for the Sikhs, that whole Mughal empire wouldn't have shaken. Of course, the Marathas played the major role, but the Sikhs did their bit. And the Sikhs, after partition, were the biggest protectors of Hindus. So those who misguided went to Pakistan have lived to regret it. Babar Khalsa went in large numbers. And then when I went to, you were, I think you were there in London with me when I addressed a Gurdwara where no Hindu was allowed.
Hounslow.
There are many Gurdwaras in America and in England, where Hindus are not allowed.
Yeah,
But not only I was allowed, but I insisted that the meeting that would take place, the RSS and Vishwa Hindu Parishad representatives should also be present. And they too were present. And then we agreed to jointly address the meeting, which led to a great deal of breaking of the Pakistani controlled, the people misled by the Pakistani propaganda. But still, it is not over. And the Babar Khalsa, a large number of them who had lived more than 20, 30 years in Pakistan, wanted to come back. And with the help of Mr. Dowal, we enabled a lot of them to return to India. We have also tried to relax the availability of passports and so on for those Sikhs who have been in jail. I have also fought hard. I don't know how much of it was done, but when with Rajnath, I tried to see that all those who have served their sentence after on the for the Bluestar thing and were still in jail, not being freed, should be freed. And I hope whatever was not what was incomplete is now being done by Amrinder Singh. It is his duty. If it was a Congress party which has to do Prayaschit, not only they did Operation Bluestar, but they also did the genocide. And so the congressmen should be now in the forefront to demolish all the myths that were spread about the Sikhs. And the Hindu-Muslim unity can only come once all this mythology is removed. You know how much RSS suffered because of the false propaganda that they were responsible for Gandhi's assassination. Their name is not in the FIR. It was never argued by any public prosecutor. In the judgment, there's no reference to RSS. And yet, word of mouth, RSS killed Mahatma Gandhi. RSS killed Mahatma Gandhi. And now, of course, many things have changed because of the time and the younger generation and so on. But the older generation, they fervently believe that the RSS assassinated Mahatma Gandhi. So the same way, and I would say that Sudarshanji, who was the Sarsanchalak of RSS, did take major steps to bring the Sikhs and the Hindus together. But his task was incomplete. And I don't know what is going on now because I have not. But I have been frequently, many times to Amritsar in the last 3-4 years. I've been to the Durga temple, which is also a lovely temple, which is now being renovated. And the Hindus need to be assured that they can live with the Sikhs. Akali Dal's only problem was they didn't want the Hindus to be anywhere except not in their party, but they wanted them to be only in Jansang. And Jansang was by word of mouth spread as a communal Hindu party. So the integration could not take place. If the Hindus had joined in large numbers in Akali Dal, then this problem would have been easier to solve. But they didn't allow it. Congress has got that taint. So therefore, it will not be able to do that. The only way this can be done is the continuation of the Akali BJP alliance. But there should be some cooperation. The Sikhs who want to join in Punjab want to join BJP. The Akali Dal opposes them tooth and nail. They opposed that cricketer who was with us and had to leave because of Arun Jaitley and go away because Jaitley took away his constituency. The Akalis wouldn't even touch him with the Bajpur and were very keen that he should not be given a seat. So there are these kinds of politics also, and I think this has to be a national effort with the Prime Minister himself taking initiatives, because people like me, we enjoy a lot of support. When I go to Punjab, the Sikhs receive me, whether they are militant, whether Bhindranwala's people, whether they're ordinary Sikhs, whatever. They receive me very well, abroad also. But it has to be a government effort by giving them relief on the genocide, on the fact that the Operation Bluestar was wrong, by declassifying all the documents so we know exactly the truth, and then we can go forward. Like Mandela brought in a truth commission, I think we need to bring a truth commission. Yeah.
डॉक्टर स्वामी, अभी जो खालिस्तान कमांडो फोर्स या बबर खालसा या दूसरे नामों से खालिस्तान का आंदोलन किसी न किसी रूप में जिंदा है, उसके लिए क्या किया जाना चाहिए?
उसके लिए ड्रग माफिया को खत्म करो। पंजाब में इतना ड्रग्स चल रहे हैं, सब पाकिस्तान से आ रहे हैं। इसीलिए मैंने कहा था कि वो जो गुरुद्वारा है जिसके लिए हम लोगों ने करतारपुर, मैंने जाके करतारपुर तो हिंदुस्तान में आने वाला था, लास्ट मिनट में हमारी कांग्रेस वालों भूल गए थे। और ये छोटा सा इलाका है, हम और जमीन दे दें पाकिस्तान को, अब तो पाकिस्तान का ऐसे बात करने की तो सवाल ही नहीं है, उसकी 4 टुकड़ा करने के बाद सोच सकते हैं, परंतु करतारपुर हिंदुस्तान का हिस्सा होना चाहिए। और ओरिजिनल जब रैडक्लिफ का जो बंटवारा चल रही थी उस समय ये अग्री था कि ये हिंदुस्तान का हिस्सा होगा, लेकिन पाकिस्तान आज जो नष्ट कर रही है वो है नारकोटिक्स से, सारा जगह। अब क्रिश्चियन कन्वर्जन्स भी बहुत बड़े पैमाने में पंजाब में चल रही है, कोई उसकी रिपोर्ट ही नहीं हो रही है, परंतु जब मैं गया तो मैंने देखा किस प्रकार से हो रहा है। अब जो सिख मिलिटेंसी पसंद नहीं करते, जो हिंदुओं के साथ नहीं होने चाहते हैं क्योंकि उनको उनका दिमाग में भी भरा गया हिंदुओं के बारे, वो आज क्रिश्चियन बन रहे हैं। जी,
Thank you, Dr. Swamy, for an interesting session on our Operation Bluestar and everything that led to it, and the role of the Sikhs in our struggle for Hinduism. And as you have been always maintaining that their contribution in the army, and you always have been maintaining in your speeches that in the freedom struggle,
yes,
as well as
correct,
the movement against the emergency,
yes,
Sikhs had a non-stop satyagraha every day.
that's right.
And nation
Correct.
should be grateful for the contribution of the Sikhs for the Hindu cause, for the cause of our freedom movement, and for the cause of the fight against the emergency.
I will also add here, Jagdish, that during partition, when I was in Delhi as a young boy, and that time all the militant Muslims were having a field day. Before my eyes, I used to see people being killed, stabbed, and so on. And I raised this issue with my mother. She said, wait 2 more days because the Sikhs are coming from Punjab, and then all this will be changed. And that's exactly what happened. The Sikhs came, only then the Hindus got relief in the city of Delhi. Had the Sikhs not come from Punjab, there was no hope of stopping bloodshed in Delhi.
Okay, friends. So with this, we end today's interesting episode on a very important chapter, as Arvind mentioned at the start, an important chapter in Indian history and how it should be tackled. We will be back tomorrow on Words of Wisdom, Gyan Ganga at 8 p.m. Tomorrow we have another interesting episode. Tomorrow we'll be having a discussion with United Kingdom UK journalist Mrs. Antonio Filmer, who is also a documentary filmmaker, and the topic is Rama, the Perfect Man. So Dr. Swamy and Antonio Filmer will be talking on this issue in tomorrow's Sunday edition of Words of Wisdom, Gyan Ganga. On Monday, yes, sorry, Dr.
There are two Antonias, and what a difference between the two. One is a Bhakta of Rama, Antonia Filmer, who will be on our program, and the other you know what.
Yeah. With this, we end our program, reminding our viewers that our website is www.vhsindia.org. You can always go to our website and become a member of Virat Hindustan Sangam. Thank you, Dhanyavad, and Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.